Kinds of subjects in a sermon are varied. Consider the lilies of the field, Matthew 6:28. It's a subject, has to do with nature. Concerning subjects of a sermon, there are doctrinal subjects, moral subjects, historical subjects, subjects drawn from nature, psychological subjects. Most sermons can be reducible to these kinds of subjects. Purely intellectual sermons are not sermons. Theological lectures are not sermons. There are times and places in which such discourses may be given, but theological lectures, intellectual lectures are not sermons. Bible drills in that same way are not sermons. Sharing is not preaching. Sharing what you do over the phone with a friend has no place in the interpreter's message of heralding God's will. There are apologetical sermons which have a flair of argumentation, which is wholly acceptable in preaching because you have to prove your point. There are even controversial kinds of sermons. A sermon might be on heresy or some finer theological doctrine of the like that needs to be argued. Moral sermons, those are wholly acceptable. Morality abounds in the words of Jesus Christ and in the writings of the apostles. Jesus was a preacher of morality. His discourses indeed included an abundance of morality. Venet says, he himself was doctrine, the grand fact with which all others were connected. When he said, I am he who should come, he gave rules of life. Neither are the apostles lacking in morality, even in a morality which is very special. We also have historical subjects. Those turn into sermons. We add that nothing so interests the mass of hearers as history. We have truly little regard to the needs of the multitude if we withhold historical sermons based on the biblical narratives from them. God has been more condescending in these. The Bible is filled with historical narrative. When sermons come from historical narratives, we seek to transform history into precept. From the contemplation of nature, which the Bible is also filled with, we preach sermons. We could preach a sermon on the lilies of the field. Jesus told us to consider that. Nature is an immense parable in that regard. Psychological sermons cover the human condition, which the preacher should be a master observer. No one should ever say, well, if the preacher knew us better, he wouldn't speak in that particular way to us. A preacher who speaks of a man without having studied him will fall into grievous error and will lack authority. He should know and demonstrate what he knows as far as a man can know of what we are made. Psalm 3:14. That means knowing men individually as biblically explained and men socially in some manner. He has to be a person who people watches and has to understand the condition of the human soul. In all of these various subjects, there are these kinds in various types of sermons.